Good morning, everyone. My name is Walt Walters, for those of you who don't know me. Today I'm going to be doing a little presentation on how I do puzzles of various kinds, most of them based on jigsaw puzzles, various variations of those. The jigsaw puzzle as a type was invented about in the 1760s by a guy who was wanting to help teach his students about geography. So he painted maps on a board and then cut out between the lines between the various entities and have his kids put it together so they'd know where the relative position of various countries. I'm going to be talking, kind of the types of puzzle I'm going to be talking about. The main thing is the jigsaw puzzle, which is just, a picture, pasted on wood and then cut. I've got several varieties here of what I call child puzzles, which are simple puzzles cut with a thicker wood, or a tray puzzle, which has there's a tray around to hold the pieces in place. Again, this is primarily for kids. Oftentimes in this case, each piece is painted as a different color to give some a little more interest. We've got 3D puzzles. This is what I call the Hans puzzle. This is one I know Hans does a lot of. Very simple one, usually out of a softwood, and very quick to do. And this is another 3D or logic puzzle, because you put it and hold it like so, it doesn't go all the way through. So there's a little trick to doing it, and we'll talk about that. And other kinds of logic puzzle. This is one, listen, you can see there's a marble in there, and you put it in one hole here at the top, try to get it to come out the other hole. And it does work. I did get it to do it at least once. So.
What paint do you use?
For the paint for the kids stuff, which is would get to, is primarily acrylics, but because the kids will tend to chew on them. But pretty much most of the paints, except lead-based paints, once they cure good, are really not toxic to them. But the best is for kids is I would stick with the acrylics. Where do you get the patterns? There are a lot of good sources for patterns, books, and the School Saw magazine has a bunch of them in. See, I marked a couple here just to kind of show. I don't even see what we'll see here. And they got, and this one it's just. So that's the pattern is in the center fold. So, and as you see, there's a lot of different puzzles in these. So these are good sources for puzzles. I find that puzzles are, if you're new to scroll sawing, puzzles is a very good place to start. Particularly the children's puzzles. Like this one, it's very simple, easy to cut, but they do sell. And so, I like to shrink wrap mine. You can other sources of puzzles. Steve Good has some online. He doesn't do a lot of puzzles, but he has some. And you can just go online and ask for jigsaw puzzle patterns, and there'll be some out there. The thing you have to watch out for with that is getting, copyright infringement, because some people just take a copyrighted thing and post it and try to sell it for themselves. So you have to be a little careful with that. But and you can also make your own, and I'll go into that a little bit more as with each piece, because there's a little variations. So you can do it just paper and pencil and draw it, or you can use software. I tend to use GIMP and Inkscape, and I'll just type very lightly on those later on. I'm not going to try to teach you how to use those at this point, but just show you what's available, what kinds of things you can do. Okay, getting set up for this. First thing you want to do, I tend to use either number 3, well, depending on the kind of puzzle I do, a 1, 3, or a 5 modified geometry blade, a flat blade. I don't like to use spiral blades, and that's because of this. If you can see this, if you look at this, you can see. That's the line made by a 2/0 flat blade up to a number 7. That's a 2/0 spiral blade up to a number 5. It's a huge difference in the size of the curve. And if you get too much curve in a jigsaw puzzle, it gets really sloppy. And sometimes you even just pull them apart if it can get that sloppy. So I look at it, I use the number 1 blade for adult puzzles, the number 5 for puzzles for kids, or maybe the 3 if I'm looking at a little older kid, but so it just depends on what I'm doing and how loose I want the puzzle to be as to which blade I'll use. I found that any blade, flat blade, pretty much the same, will work. Even a reverse tooth blade. I have found, I actually discovered recently, that just by positioning where you put the blade in here, those reverse teeth may not come above the table. And if you're using, a jigsaw puzzle, particularly with something with paper that's glued on the top, you definitely don't want that reverse tooth blade to go higher and cut so it's cutting the paper and bringing the fibers up again. So a Flying Dutchman ultra reverse, you just can't use that one because it's every 3rd tooth is reverse. Great blade, but you just don't want to use it for paper covered jigsaw puzzles. You can use it for the child puzzles and those kinds of things, but not for the paper covered puzzles. As you kind of general things for setup, you want to get your wood, and we'll talk about what wood you use where here as we go through. But in this case, this is a piece of 1/8" Baltic birch, which I'd use for a jigsaw puzzle. I've got a jigsaw pattern here that's ready to go, and it's almost ready to go. I got to cut it down to size, but you have those. You cover with blue tape, or in my case, I use a lot of the shelf paper. I buy the clear because sometimes I do intarsia. And what I do is I like the Duck brand because it's a big roll, and there's a lot of it. It's probably a little more expensive, but it sticks well and it works well for me. And then what I do is I got some sizes I use a lot of. I do a lot of 8x10 portraits or 11x14 portraits. So if I cut a piece to 10 inches, this happens to be 11, then I can just lay it, and just cut one end off. And I cut this on the scroll saw. Just slowly run it through, cuts it just fine. It leaves it, it melts it a little bit, but it's easy to separate it as you unroll it. It's not that much. And it makes it a little faster for what I do. So that depends on your situation. If you do a lot of one size, then this makes sense. If the sizes are varying all the time, then don't do that. And that's another kind of general thing. Anything I'm saying here is not the way to do things. It's my way of doing things. So try them out. If they don't work for you, try something else out. Okay. And a lot of people tell you, everybody does it just a little different. There isn't a right way or a wrong way necessarily, except from pushing from the side, but just fine. Okay. And, oh yeah, when I glue, I use the 3M77. I've used a number of different brands, and for me, this is the one that works the best. The others, I've had trouble with the others coming loose on me, but so this one's one. You can also use rubber cement or a glue stick. But the glue stick for anything very big isn't going to work real well. And it's also great if you do have something, a corner that comes up, to put the glue stick on it, and you can immediately cut if you need to. The one thing I do with the spray adhesive, when I'm done, I take the top out and I keep it in a glass jar that's tightly sealed of mineral spirits. The mineral spirits doesn't hurt the plastic, but it will keep, dissolve the glue out of there. Because I found if you don't do that after a few uses, these things get all clogged up and don't work. The other thing I've had happen is as I'm spraying, the glue will collect right here in front. Knock that off, because what will happen is I'll start collecting, the spray will start hitting that, and it'll start dripping off of that and onto the back of your pattern, which you don't really want.
And Walt, have you ever tried WD-40 through the, just take the tap off of that and put it on a WD-40 can?
No, I haven't tried it, because what I'm doing with the mineral spirits keeps it clean, because as soon as I'm done, I throw it in there, so the glue is still pretty soft, so it dissolves out pretty fast. And then the first thing I do when I start again, I just do a quick spray into the garbage can to clear out any mineral spirits or anything that happens to be there. And it's going to be kind of hard to see, on this, but I use a box like this, and I've got a 3/4 inch piece of plywood at the bottom, and then I've got crown molding staples coming up through it about every 1/2 inch or so, just to put my pieces on to keep from laying it on a flat surface and gluing. And now I've got all this flat surface, so that it may work for the first one, but if I want to put another one, I'm putting glue on both sides of my piece. This keeps it up off it. If the extra glue goes down past it, so there's just all these points sticking up. And you still get a little bit of glue on the second or third one, but not near as much. Those have to be cleaned off periodically. You get a coating of foam in there after a while. Sometimes some of it you can clean out, but it's better off just to change it every now and then. That's 2 or 3 years probably. Okay. And in the case of jigsaw puzzle, it's often you're going to want to make a bundle. And this is what I've done here. I've got 4 pieces, it's actually 5 pieces of 1/8 inch Baltic birch. 4 of them have a picture glued on them, and the top one has just the pattern glued on. So the top piece is going to get thrown away, but I'll have 4 puzzles by cutting it once. I have found that up to about at 3/4 inch is a kind of the sweet spot for a scroll saw like this. And what I think it is that because the motion on this is a 3/4 inch motion, a given spot on the blade will go up and down about 3/4 of an inch. So that at that level, it's still clearing out most of the sawdust each time. So it cuts a little better. If it gets thicker than that, you can still cut it, but it cuts a little slower, and I think that's why. Child puzzles type. You can see it's kind of hard, maybe I'd see, but I've got the shelf paper, the clear shelf paper on this. I've glued the pattern on and rough cut it out because I don't want a huge piece on my saw when I'm trying to cut it out. I've pre-drilled the eyes. I think those are about an 1/8 inch, or maybe between a 16th and an 1/8 inch. Just drilled those. You could do them with a scroll saw, but it looks better, I think, with a drill. And then typically, and I didn't actually put one on here, I would drill a hole, because the first step I want to do, the next step I want to do is cut it out. So I'll have, but I don't want to cut in from the side to cut it out to weaken it. The piece, and this piece, it's got a lot of veining right up here in the head, but it all the veining except for the eye goes to the exterior of the piece. But to do it, you're going to have to separate the head from the rest of it. And if you're not comfortable holding that small of a piece while you're working with it, what you might do is cut out everything, but leave at least a part of the head with some scrap people around it to hang on to while you do all this internal veining. Because it's, with that you want to be very careful and don't get off track. And if you have a little more of a hold, maybe that'll help you control what you're doing a little better. But that's again, optional. You don't have to do it that way. Thank you. Most of the time, I just drill a hole someplace and cut it out. When you're doing puzzles like this, it's very important that your blade be perfectly perpendicular to the table. There's been a number of videos and so forth on how to do that. I think one of the easiest and one of the best. You cut in to a thick piece of wood, cut in a little ways, move it around the back, and line it up. But you want to make sure that that's perfectly square, because if it's not, the pieces, aren't going to fit together. I think the worst thing you can do is for a kid's puzzle is have that off where it only goes in from one direction, and they're going to get frustrated with it because they don't understand that. When you cut out the holes, any pieces, like the nose and nostril and the eye, and why I saved this here, one way to kind of periodically check how you're doing is when you cut out something like this, make sure it smoothly goes all the way through. Now you know your blade's straight and you're cutting well. Another thing is you want to look at is the order of cutting. If you're probably not going to want to make your first cut coming in here and come into this corner and then try to make a turn. It's better off if you can do this cut first, or maybe, we'll cut this one, then cut this one, so that now you don't have to make a turn here. You've already cut this line, and that piece is out of the way, and it's easier to make a clean cut there. So plan how you're cutting and what order you want to do things. Once they're done, as we just said earlier, you can sand if you want, paint. Again, as I said, acrylic paints, which is the safest way to do it. And package, and I like package. You can get the shrink wrap machines online for about $100, I think they are now. I haven't looked at recently, but the kind I want to talk about is the tray puzzles. And similar concept. The tray puzzle, you're going to need the board for your puzzle itself and a backer. So this piece can be anywhere from 1/4 inch to 1 inch, although I tend to like it right around 1/2 inch to 3/4 being where I would do most of mine. The first thing you do, drilled out the eyes, and then the first entry hole here, I like to do it right on a line in a corner, right up next to what I call the inside edge of the tray. Once you've got that, cut that out totally. So it's like this. And then you glue the backer onto this and cut the outside edge. Now you've got your tray, and you'd be in this kind of position. And then again, this you just cut out like you did the other child. Just, watch for, square corners and anything. If you can eliminate any of those to make it your cut simpler. Once that's done, any sanding, painting that you want to do to it to make it more interesting for the child. Sure. For this kind of a puzzle, I'd use either a number 3 or a number 5 blade, depending on what my target was. Oh, and as mentioned, when you're doing pieces or puzzles for kids, you want to do the toilet paper test. If the piece fits through here, you don't want it to go to a young child, under 3. If you have pieces that do that, if you're selling them, make sure you mark it and say, hey, this is not fit for a child under 3. Then it's up to the parent whether they do it or not. It's the problem is off you. And this also goes true for these tray puzzles, because they're very often aimed at children as well. Patterns for these, for doing your own, let's say there's a lot of them out there on the market, you get puzzled. But to make your own, get a coloring book. Simple lines. And then either make your pattern, trace it, make your own pattern, or actually just use a page from the coloring book and draw where you want your pieces to be. You can follow the lines that are to some extent that are already on the piece, or you can just totally make it up as you go. That works. Or images off the internet, cartoon images off the internet. Again, be careful of copyright laws on any of that kind of stuff, because it can be, that could be, yes, sir.
Well, I'll go back to the tray puzzle one more time.
Sure.
I don't think people caught, the one you cut out and then you pasted the thing back. Explain why you do it in that order.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't think people.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. The idea being, you want a bottom to this tray. So if you glued everything, if I glued this here and cut it out, I don't have a tray anymore. I just have a frame. Okay. So you want to cut this part of it out first, then glue the base on, and then cut it out to give you this.
And then what it also, in the process of making the tray, it also makes the backing exactly the same as the...
Right, yeah, you don't have to worry about cutting them separately and making them fit. It's guaranteed to fit since they're glued together. Yeah. Okay, for the jigsaw puzzles, I like to use calendars as my picture. This is one that I got free from a Mexican restaurant I frequent. They used to give out, and the owner would make his travels and make this, take these pictures and make the calendar so he could write off his trip. But so you get your patterns, you find out what size they are. When I cut the backers for these, I make it just a little bit smaller than the picture. Because I was finding I was having trouble when I made them exactly the same size. I'd get it on a little bit crooked, and so I had some bare wood showing around the edges. If I make it a little bigger, then I can put it on and then cut off the excess. That seems to produce a cleaner piece. Is this the one? Yeah. See, this is one I've done that with. I find these cutting pads are really nice to have around. I've got several. This is one of the smaller ones I've got. but for doing this kind of thing, a sharp knife. Because if you don't, you're going to start tearing the paper. And you don't want that torn edges on your paper. And I just take it, and be careful with doing this, because if you get here like this and start going across this way, you can cut yourself. Don't ask me how I know that. Okay? So what I do is I tilt the blade just a little bit away from the board so it doesn't catch. Collect into it, and then just run down. Don't have to push hard, and definitely don't pull hard. Because if you start pulling hard, that's when it can get away from you. And if you have to make a couple strikes at it, that's fine. Eventually that'll come apart. And now you've got a nice clean edge here for the edge of your puzzle. And do that all around. Do the same kind of thing for the pattern. Now, as most of you know, I'm a bit of a computer nerd, so I like playing with GIMP and Inkscape. And playing around with them a while back, I discovered that the GIMP has a way in it to generate jigsaw puzzle patterns. And this pattern here was generated from GIMP. And basically you just go and you get to the spot and you say, okay, you have to figure out, based on what you want, how many rows and columns you want in your jigsaw puzzle. I like mine to be about 3/4 of an inch square, so I divide 3/4 into the width and the length and comes up with the number, round it to the number of pieces. Set that into to GIMP and saying, okay, in this case I think it was 12 by 16. Set that in, and it generates it. And that's bigger than what will fit on a single 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So I take it someplace else. GIMP, I have found, when it tries to print, it always tries to size what it's printing to the piece of paper you have. It never lets you print just a piece of it full size, knowing that some of it's going to go off the edge. So to print it, you take it to something like Rapid Resizer, which Hans has mentioned many times, and it's a very good program. I take it to Inkscape, which also I can do that with and do the same thing. And there's other, any kind of photo or
Corel does it. Corel does it.
Corel probably does. Any of the other picture editing software will probably do that for you. GIMP, for whatever reason, decided that they won't print at the correct, at full size, and just overprint. So
Are all those pieces identical?
no.
Okay.
No, I'll pass it around in just a minute. You can take a look at it. No, it's fairly random. I mean, each time you do it, it's going to probably create the same pattern, but to look at it, it looks random to look at it.
Okay.
Okay.
So they will only go together one way.
It'll only go together one way, yes. And so what I have done is I have printed 2 copies of it, and on one of them,
Cameraman, can you point it down so we can see it?
yeah. Using my straight edge and my sharp knife again, and I like to cut halfway through these tabs, because that gives you a little more reference for lining things up. I also cut off a little bit of the corner so I can line up these outside edges pretty well. And you just take, and then the other thing is to know how many you want. I pre-did that, so I marked this little marker to know where it is. And you just line them up. Line up these outside edges. Line up the tabs. Yeah, Rapid Resizer, Well, ripened's the right size, and actually I think it's, I say you kind of like it. I don't like it because what it does is you have to put them butt them up to each other. I find that harder to work with, but that's my preference. You know, Hans has a different way of doing it, and either way is right. And then you got them lined up. I take a piece of my packing tape, and while it's lined up here, put it down. I'll take it, fold it over, and use a glue stick to cover this area. Put it back down, and then before I put it to the paper, then I'll cut these off. And I don't care if these outside edges are a little short, that's fine, because then it'll be, you know, because I can find that last 1/16 of an inch. It doesn't need a pattern to cut it, and it helps me get it on the paper or on the backing real straight. That's just my way of doing it. I find it so I can make any size pattern that I need. I did one. There was a poster of a marquetry piece. It was all in these browns and golds, and you know, the standard poster size. I made the pattern that kind of way, and just, you know, it took 6 pieces of paper or something like that to put together to work, because you can put them on another row out this way if you need to have it both sides, and you can get any size. Steve Good also has a pattern book for doing jigsaw puzzles. He's somewhat limited. He limits his to standard picture sizes, 4x6, 5x7, 8x10. And so he'll have one, I think he starts at like 9 pieces up to the 8x10. He'll go up to over 200 pieces on an 8x10 picture frame. So he gets a variety of sizes and number of pieces, but those 3 common size of photos. He's also put out some other free patterns for jigsaw puzzles. I think he's the one, I saw one he did, I think it was him, that the pieces were like shaped like a bird and fitting together, one of the Escher type patterns. That I've been meaning to do that, I just haven't gotten around to do that one yet. I think that'd be fun to do. The other thing that it will do in GIMP, you can also make grids of any size you want. It's a little more difficult, and I won't go into the procedure for that, but it's pretty simple to do, because it's based on the size of the square rather than the size of your paper. So you have to, and it's all in pixels. So you have to know how many pixels you want. Well, I have learned that 3/4 inch is about 222 pixels. So I start there, and then you can fine tune it once you get it close. So, and you notice here I've got a little bit extra on the edges here because I've cut it a little small, but that's fine because that actually helps me position the paper on it. And if it's this size is a little smaller than this size, it doesn't really matter. The other thing I do, and I've just started recently doing this, and you make up a standard bundle, as I said earlier. This was, again, the 5 pieces, the pattern piece, and 4 pieces. You notice I've got these black lines on here. And what there is for, I like to make a puzzle that every piece has a flat edge. Because I'm making them they're fairly small, I need to make them a little more difficult. So, because everybody starts doing a jigsaw puzzle by doing the outside edge. Well, everything's the outside edge. And sometimes I even throw in extra corners. So that where I've got the black line, that's a place I am not going to cut a tab on. These places I'll cut a tab. And I always freeform the tab. I just like that so that you get a variety of, you add some interest in what you're not. So, I was going to, yeah. Pass that around so you can see that it's random looking.
What do these programs cost again, the name say?
They're free.
They're free.
They're free.
That's a great price.
It's a really good price. They ask for a donation. You can give it or not, but they're professional quality programs for free. So, and this is a pattern I've done, or a puzzle I've done, that has all the flat edge on every piece, so you can see what that's like.
And if your skill level's not high enough to freeform the tabs, you can
You can make it, use that, yeah. And I would start doing with a full pattern. I did a lot of them before I started doing it this way. Yeah, and then when I'm going to cut a pattern, if you got it, the first thing I do is cut it into quarters. Can you see that? I can maybe set it up a little bit. Okay. And then once it's cut, I put a couple pieces of tape here, because if you look at that, if you can see, can you see that there's a gap in there? So pull that together, a couple pieces, hold it, and so you get. It's not super critical. Even you could probably do it without, but I just, the OCD in me wants it to be perfect, because these are only an 1/8 of an inch thick, so it's really, they'll still work if I didn't do this. And then when I actually go to cutting them out, I'd start in this corner away from and cut one piece out at a time. I'll cut in this case I'll do the tab. I'd come in and I'd probably cut the tab in here. I cut better than I draw. And then what I'll do is I'll come back just a little bit past this cross line. What that does is gives me the reference where to start the next piece. So when they put the pieces together, it looks like I cut it all this way rather than just cut it and then I come back, turn the corner and cut it the other way. So that I'll cut out this piece first. Then I'll come back and I'll cut out this piece.
So we're seeing your hand.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, thank you. Then I'll cut this piece first, come back and then I'll cut this piece out the same way, and this piece. And I'll go as a diagonal. I don't have to put any more tape on because the tape's out here, and when I get down here where it's just all that, it holds it close enough together that it works pretty well. Other ways, some people like to cut in strips. That works really well if you've only cutting one puzzle at a time. If you're cutting multiple, if you have to retape each one, or the layers can slide this way as well as up and down. So I found that this way keeps it the stablest, the longest, and works pretty well for me. It takes some practice like anything else. But any questions on that?
You cut out the pattern and you reassemble it, and then you put the calendar fixture on it.
Oh, it's already on. It's on.
While you cut it.
Yeah, it's on it when I cut it.
How does it not destroy the?
The key to that is that you want the blade to the teeth to only face down as it's cutting.
Okay.
So it's pulling any fibers from the paper down.
Okay.
Now, that's why you got to be careful. You can use a reverse tooth blade, but you got to make sure that the reverse teeth don't come up above that that bottom layer. So in this case, it'd have to come no more than an 1/8 of an inch above the table. Okay. And so that's, it's just easier to use, for the most part, a, non-reverse tooth blade, okay?
Top blade would have to be disposed.
I did mine with photographs, and then on top of each one, I put a piece of parchment paper, just so that it didn't stick or anything to the board above it.
I haven't found that, it's probably a good idea, but I have never seen
An actual
it.
developed photograph might have more tendency to stick than.
Yeah, and the photograph, and it may be more likely to scratch than these printed ones. So, and if you can, if you want to look, if you see how it's done, there's, you can pull that apart, and you can see that a little bit.
Perfect, thank you.
So what, would you put your picture down and then this
No.
over it?
No, what I would do, I've got these. I've got 4 of them. I'm going to put this one aside because I haven't cut that one aside. Okay, I've got here 3 that are ready to go. And then I got my pattern piece, put it on top, make my bundle, and cut.
Okay, I see.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, this gets thrown away.
Yeah.
Pictures
Uh,
on the top.
The other thing, as you're cutting, I would highly recommend that you have a table or something close by so that you put them back kind of.
Yes.
You don't have to reassemble it. I'll do a whole quarter at one time without reassembling, but I'll put them in rows and columns like I had it, and then after I've cut that quarter, then I'll assemble all 3 or 4 puzzles and set them aside. And what I'll do is I'll find a piece of cardboard that's the right size and put each one on its own piece of cardboard so that I can work with it easier and move it around. If you use 1/4 inches, it's actually pretty easy to pick it up and hold it. At 1/8 inch, not so much.
I'm surprised you got the straight edges. Why didn't you just sell the top one as a pictureless puzzle?
I think it's a good
That'd
idea.
drive
I was
drive
thinking
people
that
nuts.
too.
Yeah, I've thought about.
Don't need any more nutty people in the
I've thought about that. I've saved a few off, but nah. I made a puzzle one time. It was I think it was a tray puzzle, and it was painted solid black. And it didn't have any tabs on it. It was just so it was a tray puzzle. So it's held together by the tray, and then just these random lines going through it. And that's your puzzle, painted black.
Yeah, all white puzzles are very popular.
Yeah, this is an all black one, but yeah, same thing.
Same, yeah.
Because I wanted to cover the graining. So I wanted it black.
My grandparents did that one year. They gave my wife and I a puzzle was all black in a plaid bag, and they said the plaid bag was the clue. It turned out to be a Scottish Terrier. It was all put together, but it was all solid black pieces.
Yeah, I haven't had much success selling ones like that, but you absolutely can do that. Okay.